Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope you guys are having a great day. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining a concept on how to win more gunfights. But before we start, make sure you guys drop a sub and hit that bell notification for more tips and tricks videos. Now, let's get on with the video. Welcome back, guys. So the people that don't know what the concept of winning more gunfights is, it's basically getting more kills than deaths. And as you guys know, since it is Call of Duty Mobile, the concept of winning your gunfights and getting kills is highly important, especially if you're doing the role as a Slayer. But before I start, I would just like to remind you guys that even though you guys follow these tips, it doesn't mean that you will get, turned into a pro player in the matter of seconds. These tips take time and effort, and they will only get better if you practice these tips every single day. So try to be consistent with them. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get on with the first tip. For the first tip I would like to give you guys is improving your movement. I stress this a lot in most of my videos that I do tips and tricks on when it comes to movement. And as you guys know, I am a player that is movement based, as in I use my movement to my best of ability. I'm not saying I'm the best with it, but I use my movement to do everything. I drop shot, jump shot, not as much as I would do before, slide peek, jump peek, everything. If you guys want to know what kind of movements there are and how to improve movement, I will have an updated video coming out soon, but you guys can also check out the previous video I had, which will come up in the pop-up right now. So feel free to check that out after the video is over. Now I will showcase you an example of a movement. An example of a movement trick is the clip that you guys are about to see right now. This is a new movement that was introduced in this update because of how you can slide and then jump another direction. As you guys can see here, I slide to the left and then I jump back to the right. As I do it again, I slide to the left and then jump to the right and get the second kill. This is one of the movements that I've been learning a lot recently, and it is a great thing to use in the future for you guys. Now that we are done with tip number 1, let's get on with tip number 2, which is pre-aiming. If you guys know what the concept of pre-aiming is, it is basically aiming down your sights as you go around a corner in case an enemy is there, so you can get the jump on them and are prepared before they are. This is also known as peek your advantage, which we will touch up on later in the video. Here's an example of pre-aiming. So basically, I know they're going to come from the garden side, so I pre-aim and get myself almost 2 kills. I know I could have gotten the second one, but I did end up choking. I'll show you another clip once again, but this time I'll also be doing a pre-fire. As you guys can see, I shot and I pre-aimed and shot at the same time before knowing they were there. Pre-fire is when someone fires before actually seeing the person. The reason I did this is because since I have a good sense of IQ, knowing that there will be players on B because of me looking at which flags are being captured, I know they're gonna be there. So knowing that information, you can basically pre-aim and pre-fire, which will potentially get you those a few extra shots you need to kill that enemy. Now, if I were to be honest, the only one that I was actually talking about that I see in the competitive scene of COD Mobile is pre-aiming. Not that many comp players use the sense of pre-firing as much because it can give away their location, but when you do know that they are there, and if you have a good sense of knowledge around the map, I would highly recommend doing that, because you never know how that pre-fire could actually end up saving a life because of the few extra shots you got before they could shoot you. Now that we are done with tip number 2/2.5/3, I know that this is a bit too much, but pre-aiming / pre-firing is kind of around the same concept, which is why I decided to put them together. Let's get on with tip number 3, which is knowing what your surroundings are and how to use them properly. Usually when I play rank, I do see some people never using their surroundings to their advantage. If you guys didn't know, surroundings are a great game changer to knowing when it's life or death for your own self. So let's say you're reloading and you need to take cover. You should always take cover in some sort, because you never know if you're going to get shot in the open, which it could lead to your death, which could also lead to you losing your nuke streak. An example of this is the current clip that I'm going to show you guys right now, which is Domination Nuketown. As you guys can see, I'm getting cover behind a car, which is known as a head glitch. A head glitch is basically when someone takes cover behind a surface where you can only see their head, but in the other perspective, the head glitcher can see the whole perspective of the map, giving them the advantage of a whole point of view, which can lead them to getting more kills and even more cover. The only way to get someone off a head glitch is by throwing a nade, or the second solution, which is having good aim and actually shooting them in the head. I would never, charge a head glitcher head on, because you will most likely lose the gunfight, and it will also take you out for a streak, which might be really important. A majority of comp players and rank warriors do use head glitches to their advantage, so you will most likely find this tactic almost every game you play. The reason for this is because it is one of the easiest ways to actually prevent yourself from dying, and it is also one of the easiest ways to win gunfights, which is why you see majority of people using it. Now that we are finished talking about tip number 3, let's get on with tip number 4. Now, tip number 4 is a really complex one for most of you guys, and that is, you guessed it right, having the perfect sense. Now, as many of you guys know, there are multiple YouTubers, even myself, making loadouts plus settings video, which, showcase our settings, which includes our HUD and our sensitivity. But I'm sorry to say, you should never copy another YouTuber's sensitivity if it doesn't match your playstyle. By this, I mean you shouldn't use a high sensitivity if you're an AR player, and you shouldn't be using a low sensitivity if you're an SMG player. But with me, I use speed acceleration, which is why you guys realize that I use a low sensitivity, which I'm going to show on the screen right now. As you guys can see, I use a speed acceleration from 43, and as you guys can also see, my standard sensitivity and my ADS for both firing and camera are pretty low. Now, the reason for this is two things. One of them is I am an SMG player, but like you guys heard me say, why am I using a low sense if I'm an SMG player? And the answer to that is because I use finger sleeves. If you guys don't know, finger sleeves are like a cloth-like material that makes my finger feel, in the same consistency every time I play. And knowing this, I basically get the same movement speed with my thumb, my right thumb, which is my aiming finger, throughout the whole game. And if you guys didn't know, I do use speed acceleration, like I said in the beginning, which means the faster I swipe my screen, the faster I can flick, which is why I use these finger sleeves, because it's basically smooths out my finger the whole time, causing me to flick as fast as I want, which also leads me to doing a quick 180 or 360 whenever I need to. Knowing this, I wouldn't really recommend copying other people's sensitivity, because you also gotta take into consideration what device do they have. For example, I have an iPad Pro 11-inch, and other players, like I think Little B, had an iPad Pro 10.5, but then he recently switched to a 12.9 for his iPad, but since it is phones only with the LAN vent, he has switched back to phone, so it's a whole mess. But knowing that, like I said, I would not recommend using other people's sensitivity. What you can do instead is going to a public match or a ranked match. I would mostly recommend a public match, since, you won't really mind if you lose points or if you do bad, because, trying to find sensitivity. But go into a random number, start off with a small or high number, and if you feel like you have to lower it down by, a few points, or if you feel like you need to higher it up a bit, higher it up by a few points, and the moment you get your perfect sensitivity as you play around with it, that's when you know you found your perfect sense. Now that we're done with the 4th tip, I believe it is, let's get on with the 5th tip, which is known as Peeker's Advantage. This tip right here is probably one of the most annoying ones in my opinion, because it's all, ping based. But Peeker's Advantage is basically when one person peeks first, causing them to actually win the gunfight if they're good, due to, data and ping or whatever going through the system in something mathematical. It's hard to explain, but not hard to explain, but I don't have the actual definition, because I don't know how to explain it. But basically, it means it basically means that the person who peeks first will always see the opposite enemy first before the enemy sees you, because your ping in packets went through the game first before theirs did. Doesn't make sense. But what I'm trying to say is that you should always be the first one to peek a corner if you actually want to win most of the gunfights, because this will also help, get the enemy confused, because they won't see you on their screen before you see them on their screen. I do apologize if that did not make sense, but I hope it did. Anyways, guys, that seems like it is all for my 5 tips on how to win gunfights. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys are staying in until the end, make sure you guys drop a like. But other than that, I hope to see you guys in the next video. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys who have subscribed and have been here since the beginning. If you guys didn't know, we are so close to hitting that 10K mark on YouTube. And with that being said, I have a special video planned out for you guys. So you guys do not want to miss that out. Make sure you guys have your notifications on with the bell. And other than that, hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night, whichever time you're watching this out. Peace.